while we're waiting here, would love to hear. I know there's only a few on here, but would love to if you want to post in the chat. Would love to hear where everybody is calling in from. I'm currently calling here from Wisconsin, just outside Milwaukee, and hopefully you guys are in a bit warmer weather than where I'm at. So, but we're gonna get started here in just a few short minutes as we wait for people to trickle in.
I see some people I know. Hi, Ann. Oh, 70 degrees in Pennsylvania. That's pretty good. I live in North Myrtle Beach. We're 80 today. Ooh, Brendan, 45 degrees in Wisconsin.
I know.
Is that good for this time of year? I don't know.
I wish it was a little bit warmer.
And Ryan, it's Chicago at 50.
Yeah.
Oh, 59 in Phoenix. I always think about Phoenix being hot. Glenn says it's 59.
Yeah. Pennsylvania being 70 versus 59 in Phoenix. I would not have guessed that.
Oh, Corey, 48. Feels like 48. 48 in southern Missouri. Cindy, good grief. Missouri? I'm in South Carolina, and we're 80 today.
Debbie, maybe we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes and then we'll kick things off.
I see somebody else who just wanted to get in, so I admitted Sarah. Oh, 18 degrees. Is that 75 degrees? I don't know. And then I see some more folks that I know. I saw somebody from Niagara up in Canada. That's a trip I want to make. I want to go to Niagara on the Lake. But it's just not this time of year. I was up there kind of close. I was in, I think it was called Canton, New York, and it was very close to the Canadian border. Clinton did the math. Thanks. 64 degrees in Niagara. Former math teacher. Oh, hey, Ann, 48 in Seattle. Well, that's not atypical. I visited Seattle one time and went to Bainbridge Island, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was one of those clear, sunny days that never happen in Seattle. So we really lucked out when we went around the island. Yeah, Colleen, you're in my neck of the woods, Atlanta, 84. I'm in North Myrtle Beach. We're at 80 today. I have a whole flat of plants waiting to be planted in my yard. Yeah, Myrtle Beach is pretty spiffy, Colleen. We moved here 6-7 years ago, and my husband retired, and we live here full time now.
All right, it's about 12:05 Central Time. Debbie, you good to get started here? We can do. I'll do brief introductions. Thanks everybody for joining today. My name is Brendan Salvino, one of the founders of VetTalk, alongside my brother and co-founder Ryan Salvino, who's also on the call. We're super excited to be sponsoring this webinar alongside Debbie Boone, as well as our partners at DaySmart. I see Ross Campbell's on the call here. So we're super excited. In terms of introductions, happy to introduce Debbie Boone, who I'm sure a lot of you may know and are here to hear from. Debbie's been in the industry and I was corrected. I thought it was over 30 years. It's been over 40 years. So super excited to be here alongside Debbie. And we'll kick it over to you, Debbie, and look forward to the call here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Just to let you guys know, we are recording this. So anybody who needs to jump off or is going to need to listen to it later or wants to share it with somebody else, we will have that recording done for you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some tech stuff. So let's take a look at our agenda. And notice that we're going to talk a little about technology and educating clients with tech and creating efficiencies in the clinic. And it really is my pleasure to join you today because I like to use technology and I like to enhance the client experience by using technology. And as Brendan said, my name is Debbie Boone. I am a CVPM. I am happy to say I'm the current vice president of NAVR, which is the North American Association of Veterinary Receptionists. It's a new association. If you guys haven't heard of it, please check it out for your CSRs. But for most of my career as a consultant, I've trained veterinary teams on client service and enhanced communication skills. Now, with the increase in technology tools available to vet hospitals, I've expanded my discussions to how these tools can help improve efficiency, free up time for our teams, better connect with our clients. And of course, as a trainer, the importance of teaching staff has always been a priority for me, but education of clients, equally important. So today I want to share my thoughts on how to reach out and manage all these goals of communication and education, and to share some veterinary specific tools with you, along with favorite new client education technology I've actually been watching evolve, because I've been talking to Ryan and Brandon for a couple of years now and watching VetTalk as it evolves. All right. So let's move on to the next slide, and let's talk about who our clients are, because the demography of veterinary clients is changing. 10 years ago, the majority of our clients were baby boomers. They learned to use cell phones and computers as teens or adults, and they're capable of using these things. There are some obviously Bill Gates is a boomer, but they still sometimes prefer a phone call or a paper document for discussions or education. And that's absolutely fine, because veterinary practices can still use these tools to satisfy these clients. Now, I am a proponent of meeting clients where they want to be, not forcing them to be where we want them to be. So this includes still sending a postcard to clients who prefer that. Of course, this is after getting no reply from our digital methods of sending reminders out. Now, however, many boomer clients are on their last pet as they look to retire. They start to travel more. They live on retirement income, or maybe they simply just become physically unable to take care of an animal. The current majority of our client base is a mix of Gen X, who are born between 1965 and 1980, the millennials, the much maligned millennials, which were born between 1981 and 1996. That's right, the oldest millennial is now 44. That really takes some thought. And of course, Gen Zs, which are born between 1997 and 2012. Now, Gen X learned tech young in life, so they're really comfortable using it. Millennials and Gen Zs grew up with computers on their desk, cell phones in their hands, and text messaging their friends who were sitting beside them in the same room. They expect the companies that they use to be where they live, and that is online. And if they're not, then these clients question just how up to date that practice might be, because it's not just for the tech, but it's also for medical care. Behind in one area is perceived as behind in all areas. They also expect much faster response and more frequent contact than their boomer predecessors. The boomers were okay with that end-of-day call on the status of their hospitalized pet. But younger generations expect multiple texts, Photos, especially think about before and after dental pictures. We want to have pictures of our animals after they're awake from anesthesia because we want to make sure they're alive. They want their lab results sent to their phones. They want a play-by-play for any hospitalized care. And the problem now arises with that increased amount of time that we're taking to do all this communication. If we're not using digital communication, it's a huge time suck, and we are taking time away from patient care. So today's practices absolutely must think digital first. Email is a good tool for non-urgent communication. Clients will typically read an email from their pet's medical care provider, provided the subject isn't too spammy. And if it does require a response, you might see that in a few days. Target marketing using email is a great way to share information with clients based on their pet's breed or species or a medical condition or warnings like a food recall or some general clinic announcements like introducing a new team member or maybe you're going to change your hours. Most apps will send email reminders for routine care, but they'll also send a text message reminder. But data shows that response to text is usually within 1 hour. And with younger clients, it's even more immediate because they're always on their phone and they're always aware of their phone. When practices first began to use text messages to communicate with clients, it was really common for the medical teams to pick up their personal phones and send somebody a text. But it didn't take us too long to realize that with each text, the client was getting someone's personal phone number, and they were using it at all hours of the day or night, anytime they had some random pet question. So fortunately, technology advanced, and we now have apps and PIMs and phone systems like Weave that allow us to text through what appears to be our landline number, and yet it hides those personal phone numbers if team members do happen to use their own phone. Now, many hospitals have been using these common digital tools for, a lot of years. One important aspect of being digital forward is the perception of the team that your practice is forward thinking and using a modern approach to communication versus that old school practice still writing notes on index cards. And believe me, I've still seen them. In today's challenging hiring market, and I don't know about you guys, but it's a struggle out there, being able to show that your practice implements modern tools and uses them and show this to your potential candidates is a real plus when you are recruiting people. Veterinary students in particular are being taught to utilize digital x-rays, AI-assisted lab results, radiology reviews performed by artificial intelligence tools, and even AI-assisted decision support tools that house a repository of veterinary medical information to assist in diagnosing complex cases and formulating treatment plans. They're also using things like virtual reality to perform surgery on a virtual patient when they're in school. Now, keeping abreast of all this new tech is challenging. The artificial intelligence stuff just seems to be rolling out faster and faster and faster. I personally am a big fan of ChatGPT for all kinds of stuff. But a trip to the startup circle at VMX is going to reveal a multiple artificial intelligence scribing tools. That seemed to be the thing everybody was doing for the last couple of years. New thermometers that are smart, wearables that measure vital signs and message them right over to the PIMs. That's just a few of them. I remember seeing an AI tool maybe last year or the year before that measured body condition score. So no longer were the body scores numbers just kind of based on an estimation of the medical team looking down at the top of this pet, but they're rather accurately calculated using the AI benchmarks for the scores. I suppose one of our first tech tools is our online pharmacy, and we don't really think about it that way, but if you consider you're connecting your clients to an online pharmacy provides a service by offering a simplified purchase experience. They don't have to come to your practice. And it allows clients to even subscribe for home delivery. I'm a big advocate for this because when I found out that 75% of Chewy's business was a subscription model, I thought we are really losing it if we do not push to online pharmacy and sign people up for subscriptions for pet foods, chronic medications, and preventative products. Then there are other companies like Vetology AI and Signal Pet. And these companies provide artificial intelligence reading of digital radiographs. Now, as we're aware, getting a radiology consultation from a specialist can take time we often don't have when a patient's in need. These tools can offer a confirmation of the hospital team's in-house interpretation of studies, even including dental x-rays. And they can be done in minutes instead of taking days. Time saved studying x-rays can now be spent with the patient starting the treatments. When I managed hospitals, my doctors were pretty good about researching things. They wanted to spend time pulling out journals. And of course, this was really old school because I haven't managed practices in over 25 years. But they would look up articles in journals, and they would go and pull out videos and look at them before they would do a procedure. But now we have tools such as Vet Companion and Sophie by LifeLearn. And these tools provide our doctors with access to a lexicon of articles and formularies and guidelines and client information sheets and client procedures, all right there at their fingertips. Now, consider the value of vet-scanned images that analyzes blood smears, fecal samples, and cytology slides. This AI-driven platform can compare thousands of images to the image it's reading and make almost instantaneous identification of parasites or pathologies. I remember hearing a physician discuss this type of tool from the human side of medicine. He said, as a dermatologist, I might see 100 melanomas in my practice lifetime, but this AI has pictures of thousands and thousands of melanomas, and it compares my sample to all of them in an instant. It's going to find something I would not recognize, and that alone can save a life. So just think about that. Every time we submit a sample to any of these tools, AI is learning and it's increasing its available knowledge base. It's really amazing to me. And I'm a big fan of scribing tools. In fact, I wrote my book, Hospitality and Healthcare, using Talkatoo. But Talkatoo is not the only available tool for scribing. Also on the market are HappyDoc, ScribbleVet, ScribeNote, CoVet, VetRec. These tools reduce the burden of medical charting by your doctors and improves their quality of life by getting them out and home instead of spending hours after work writing up medical notes. Now, most of my doctors were very efficient. They got their chart notes done before end of day, but mainly because we were regimented in our scheduling and we closed at lunch for a certain time and we came back at a certain time and we gave them an hour to write up chart notes between all those times and an hour long for lunch. But as a consultant, I can tell you I have gone into practices and I have seen piles of medical charts with incomplete notes sitting on a doctor's desk for weeks and sometimes months. Now, in no way is this appropriate documentation. And if the state board complaint came along, you would be in trouble. Another fallout from delayed charting is the follow-up. If your team is calling to check on patients after their visit and the chart notes aren't available, then the staff is not able to confidently speak with the client and answer any of the questions they might have. Now, on a surprise note about this scribing, when doctors are speaking their examinations out loud to the scribing tool, we find that client satisfaction is increased because clients are now hearing exactly what the doctor is doing and what they're finding as they go through that complete physical examination. As someone who worked at the front desk for many years when I first started, I used to have clients come up, and this was early before we learned better, and they would say to me, I just don't know why I should have to pay for an exam. All that doctor did was pet my dog. And then I would ask them if the doctor looked at the eyes, looked at the skin, made these kind of maneuvers over the body, and they go, yeah, they did that. And I'd say, that was the physical exam. So now we're educating clients as we actually perform the work, and they're seeing the value in it. If you have ever suffered through the task of an international health certificate, and I have many times, you understand how challenging it can be to make sure all the documents, the titers, the tests, the vaccinations are performed and they're done at the right time. Not only is timing all this work correctly imperative, but each country has their own rules. I once had a client miss her appointment for a rabies booster, and it delayed her entire trip because the dog couldn't enter the country. One of my fellow CVPMs, Maria Morgan, and she's on this call, saw a need to simplify and automate this process, and she and her co-founder created PassPaw, P-A-S-S-Paw. It's a company that helps both the practice and the client plan successful travel by automating the health certificate process and then digitizing all that documentation so the client just has them on their phone and can take off on their trip. It also reminds the client about their responsibilities. So the practice is off the hook for constantly reminding people to keep them on track. Have you done this? You've got to come in on time for this appointment. Another topic that we educate clients about is pet insurance. Now, practices need to be very careful about recommending a specific insurance brand because we are not licensed insurance agents. But we can utilize a handy automation by having policy.com scan our appointment schedule, send a message to the client reminding them of their pet's appointment, and asking if they have pet insurance. If the answer is yes, the practice is notified. So now we're aware of providing any extra documentation we need to help clients make sure that they get their coverage. If the answer is no, then policy offers a free quote to the owner based on breed, age, pre-existing conditions, and genetic predispositions. And they give them 3 different prices from 3 different companies. So owners right then can sign up for pet insurance before they even come into the practice. And the best part about it is the veterinary team doesn't have to be involved at all. And it doesn't cost the practice anything. We really love free stuff. Now, what about using tech tools to remove some of the burden from the front office team? As a frequent traveler, I know that I book my hotel, my flights, my rental cars, and even my dinner reservations through apps. So our clients should be allowed the same convenience. Companies like Vetstoria allow clients to book their own appointments on your practice appointment schedule. And many of the PIMs also integrate, and some of the apps also integrate with Vetstoria to do the same thing. Now, of course, you set the rules as to what type of appointment and what times are available. These are really great options for routine care appointments. And even using PIMs like DaySmart that allow the clients to confirm or change their appointments online are a way to offer better client convenience and save your CSR some time. Now, if you don't think saving your CSR's time is important, here's some data points from phone companies like Weave and Ring Central that show that practices are missing somewhere between 33 and 38% of the phone calls coming into the hospital. Now, fortunately, both of these companies have missed call features, which will call the client back and let them know that a staff member will attend them shortly. But if someone is calling your practice in today's age and they're not text messaging you, it means there's a situation or an issue they want a human to help them with immediately. And we need to be there because missed calls are missed opportunities to serve our patients. So here's another great DaySmart integration. Payment integration allows us to push a button and not have to enter credit card information, but just use what card is on file. And also the ability to text payment links out to clients is great. And I like this feature because often the client is, the patient is picked up by a non-owner. I've had in my career the nanny, the butler, the kid, the housekeeper, you name it, come and pick up the pets. And this way we can send a link to the real owner and get paid and let anybody else pick up the pet, and that's fine. This is also helpful because sometimes I've heard from some practices they're having some challenges of particularly new client no-shows. Since we don't have any history typically of these people in our practice and know if they're going to show up or not, then we are supposed to send a link out and get a deposit for the appointment, and that way it's on hold. As a time saver, this helps us at the end of the day because we are eliminating some possible human errors. I know for myself, typos have kept my team struggling with end of day closing on more than one occasion. Okay. All right, now let's talk about educating clients with technology. This is a challenge for us because it's incredibly important to patient health and care follow through. And yet it takes a lot of time on the part of the medical team. Over the years, my doctors would come and find me to finish speaking with a client who had a bunch of questions about their pet's medical issue. I had a Shih Tzu several years ago that was allergic to absolutely everything. I mean, grass, pine straw, you name it, except for fleas, which was odd. But they had me do a lot of allergy talks with clients. I know that as they were in that room, they could mentally kind of feel that clock ticking, ticking, ticking as they got further behind in their next appointment when they were trying to explain things to a client with a lot of questions. And they knew it was imperative to give the client the answers they needed for the pet to get well and the client to feel they had gotten a good service experience. But you know what? Not every practice has a manager walking up down the halls like me who could step into a medical conversation. And certainly our licensed technicians and veterinary assistants are capable of client education, but they're also pressed for time. Another less considered but important aspect of exam room education is the neuroscience of how people learn. Now, as a speaker and a trainer, I focus on how to keep my students' attention. And we need to do the same in our exam rooms. I used to teach people you are a professional speaker every time you walk into an exam room, so consider that. Now, typically when clients are in a room, they're either stressed about the illness of their pet, they're concerned about the cost of care, and sometimes they're just plain confused because the explanation that our medical team is relaying is over the client's head. It's never really intentional, but over the years, it has amazed me how little people know about anatomy and health. I've had multiple students tell me over the years that they had clients who did not know how to tell if their dog was male or female. The cats, I get, but dogs, seriously, folks? This is an especially entertaining conversation to have over the telephone. Now, I know for a fact that clients sit in an exam room listening to doctors give them education, and when the doctor or the tech asks if they understood everything or if they have any more questions, they just nod no, and then they come right up to that front desk and they ask the CSR to clarify some of the medical language that they've just heard. I also know that many times clients go home, forget some of the education and the instructions they've been given, turn right around and call the clinic and ask to speak to the doctor or the technician because they forgot or they have more questions. Now, valuable time of our medical team is spent re-messaging information that we've already given them once. The other scenario that's common is other family members want to be educated, and then they call the practice, and then we have to teach them all over again. We also commonly get an upset significant other who sees the bill when it comes home, but whose partner in no way, shape, or form can really explain what the bill cost, what it did, because they didn't understand all the education they were given in the room. So how do we solve this problem? Technology. Our clients want to know and understand their pet's care. And our goal should be to be a partnership between us and the pet guardian. By informing our clients in a way that they feel comfortable and in a way that's sticky, we satisfy their need to be involved and to understand. Adult learning shows clearly that short bites of information presented in an interesting and compelling way will register with the learner, and that this information is going to be retained. That old adage, picture's worth 1,000 words, holds true for learning too. Okay. So when I learned, there are hospitals who acknowledge that, video is incredibly important in client education, and they've worked to make some home-produced content. And I've seen some of these things; they're not too bad. You can tell they're a little, home, in the exam room, follow people around. However, now they have to manually share that content with the client and remember what videos they actually have available to share and keep their content library updated and current. But how can this be automated? Well, our friends at VetTalk have created this solution. In collaboration with a professional production company, Vetios, which many of us know, VetTalk has created over 70 educational videos that automatically are triggered by services performed on a patient. Let's say, for example, a client makes an appointment for a spay, and VetTalk knows from the appointment type to send a video out before the appointment, explaining to the client they need to take up food and water, and also to give them some additional content that prepares them for what their pet will experience with the spay. When that same client checks out and is discharged, they will receive a video that explains how to take care of their pet at home post-surgery. Now, certainly our team is going to discharge this surgical procedure and explain these items to the client in-house. At least we should be, although I have seen that not happen. But having an automated video is the consistent follow-up that we need. It's almost a no-brainer. We don't have to worry about it. It's going to be there. And this video can be shared to all of the family members, and it can be replayed as many times as the client feels necessary so that they are not calling us about this stuff. We are basically in their pocket at midnight if they need us there. If you have client instructions you typically send home like a PDF, VetTalk can also attach these instructions and automate them too, because some people just like to read and they like to dig into a little more extensive details, and that's fine. The videos are then archived in the pet's personal VetTalk file, and they can be viewed at any time by the client. Now, when I learned about the video library, one of my first thoughts was, hey, we can use this to educate our non-medical staff. Client service representatives are often kind of an afterthought when it comes to training, but they're also the ones who field questions over the phone or respond to emails or texts by clients. So rather than trying to use our medical team training information, we can use the VetTalk library to teach our CSRs how to communicate with clients in a language they'll understand. Plus, remember, video is sticky. So this training method will be more effective than just learning by reading. As the VP of NAVR, I'm always on the lookout for education tools for the front desk. And I think VetTalk can certainly be added to our arsenal. Okay. Now, I know I've thrown a lot of information about a multitude of companies at you in this webinar, and I want to thank VetTalk for giving me the leeway to talk about other people's businesses in a webinar that they're sponsoring. But I felt like there's an advantage to being a consultant, and that is just having the time to do the research on all these options. And often these fledgling companies will reach out to me for an opinion about their product. Do I think it's going to work? How should they change it? And I'm always happy to talk to them, and I'm always happy to learn about the new things that are coming on the market that help our practices be more productive and more enjoyable places to work. Using automation and AI tools allows us to spend times on the things that only a human can do. Hands-on patient care, building connections with our clients on a personal basis. Leveraging technology smartly can increase our ability to provide clients the knowledge they need to care for the pets they love. It can also stop our doctors from spending hours of valuable time doing repetitive tasks, which, while they're important, are not the reason they wanted to become veterinarians. It also makes sure that staff has time to actually talk with clients and learn about them as people. Building relationships is the key to practice success. When people trust us, they become easier to work with. When people trust us, they say yes to care plans more frequently without question. Service is key in our experience economy, and being proactive with communication and education is a winning combination. Remember this: we are first and foremost client service providers who happen to perform veterinary care. Successful practices know this formula, and they work to find ways to build relationships of collaboration with their clients rather than the old authoritarian, I am the doctor, do as I say mindset. But pet owners want to be good pet guardians. And if we don't provide them education, they will go out to the internet and they will find it. And some of it is harmful, as we all know. All right, as we mentioned, this presentation has been recorded and it will be available to all who signed up. And we have now blocked some time to answer any questions you may have. And if you have questions after this, please feel free to email me at Debbie at Debbie Boone Consulting. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. If you do Debbie Boone CVPM, I pop up. Did we have any questions, Brendan?
Nothing that came through yet, so feel free to ask any questions that you guys have in the messaging portion of the webinar. But I did have maybe one quick question for you, Debbie. Is just curious on kind of clinics that you are consulting. Is education kind of top of mind for those clinics? How are they doing it today? Just curious to hear a little bit more about kind of your thoughts and how the clinics that you currently consult with are thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I will say that the clinics that I'm working with currently are great at exam room training and talking to clients, and they're very good communicators for the most part. But again, as they get busier, because many of them are new hospitals, I love to help startups. They are new hospitals, and as they get busier and busier, they're starting to feel the time crunch of wanting to give a lot of time to clients and a lot of good education to clients. But then the next room is calling, the next room is calling. Their technicians are looking at their watch going, we need to move along. And so they know that they need to figure out better ways. As many hospitals, a lot of the PIMs actually come with some canned templated messages that we can link to service codes, but we need to make sure that we are utilizing that. Back in the 90s, we figured out we could do this when we were running old version of probably AVS. I don't know how long ago that's been, and maybe I shouldn't even tell that. But we could link messaging, and it would print out on the invoice. Now, some of these invoices were 5 pages long, so not really, cost efficient to be running all that paper and, kind of kill some trees. But we can do this digitally now, so much easier, and people are looking to find as many digital ways because they also want to be environmentally friendly and not send a bunch of printouts home. I remember there was a data point from years ago. I was taking a class about marketing stuff, and if you tell a client something or they pick up something on their own out in your lobby, like a brochure or something you have on hand, chances are really good they'll never read it and it'll end up in the floorboard of their car. But if you say to the client, you need to read this and hand them something or send them something or say, this link is important, it's your take-home instructions, you need to go read it, they will do that when we instruct them to do so. So I feel like that is one real advantage of having VetTalk, is that we can say, I'm going to send you a video link. It's important that you look at it, and then you can show it to everybody in your household, and it will talk to you about how to take care of your pet after it leaves this building. And it's such a safety net for people. So I recommend it highly.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, Debbie. And one more thing to add to that is we can automate all of your PDF documents as well to be sent digitally, so you don't have to print out anymore, spend money on ink, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great way that the tool has been being used by our clinics as well. Looks like Ryan had a question. Have you found that there's a specific amount of time before or after appointment to provide digital education to clients so that they can connect the info to what the staff has said in the appointment?
Yeah, I think that, within a few hours after they leave, that night typically is when people are the most stressed. I always think about it, we're doing our callbacks, and sometimes people won't call back for a couple of days on a surgical procedure. And like, no, the night of, if you could make it the night of, that is when people are the most stressed, because they're sitting there looking at an incision going, is it red? Is it swollen? And should they lick it? I mean, all the panic is setting in. So if we have that available to them when they get home, and they're probably going to open it up maybe after dinner, or depending on what time of day the animal was discharged from the hospital. Usually it's late in the afternoon. Then they have the opportunity to sit there and look at that and show it to other people in their household. And that is an opportune time to do it. As far as instructing people ahead of time, I think that a day before, like take up food and water reminder is always important, because you're going to tell people that when you're booking the appointment, if you're talking to them on the telephone, or if they're in the exam room and you're booking the appointment. And I can't even tell you how many times people have forgotten to take up their pet's food and water, or fed them at an inadvertent time, or they free feed and then they forgot all about taking it up, and then we have to delay the surgery. So those kind of reminders are incredibly important to send out.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks, Debbie. Yeah, Jennifer asked, is anyone using VetTalk as a way to promote their online pharmacy? Maybe a PDF sent where we can do a written RX code. So we don't have anybody currently doing that. I think there's multiple ways to leverage VetTalk, just the way we can trigger and send education. I think there's so many different use cases. I think, Jennifer, that's a great point, and a use case that we could definitely incorporate into VetTalk to help kind of drive people to that online pharmacy. I think really anything that we can get into their hands digitally and in an automated way is going to benefit the vet clinic. So that is definitely something we can do. Given, as you know, Jennifer, who is one of our customers, you can kind of customize the care plans in a lot of different ways, which is pretty unique to VetTalk. So that is a great question, and something that we definitely can do.
And it's a really
I'm happy to add to that too. We actually do have a customer, well, actually two customers now that are now promoting their online store/pharmacy. I actually just did this with them yesterday, and we've customized their buttons on the bottom of the care plan pages, so that we also added a doctor recommended product section, so you can literally put the product information that the doctor recommended during the appointment right in that section. They're able to watch maybe the video on allergies, then you have the product right underneath, and then the button that's a link directly to their online store or pharmacy. So I just actually installed that to two of the clinics. One is brand new yesterday. So yeah, that is definitely an option, and I'm happy to show you more too, Jen.
That's a great idea. I mean, I really believe that when we capture the pharmacy business, either right there in the practice or immediately before they get online and start searching all the other options, then we can get them into that subscription model that our pharmacy is sending out. And truthfully, they're so much better at it than the practice is reminding people that it's time to get their heartworm preventative refilled, or that they should be out of their NSAID, so teaching the clients how to do it. The other thing is that might be helpful for you guys to implement is kind of a step-by-step video of how to order on the online pharmacy, because some of those pharmacies are not exactly user-friendly. Some of them are easy, but some of them are not user-friendly. And so it's here's how you set up an account in our online pharmacy and be able to send that out.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Debbie. Kathy asked, can you guys share how integrated VetTalk communications with the PIMS like DaySmart can enhance efficiency in patient care? So yeah, I'm happy to take that one. I think, in terms of how we integrate with the practice management system, specifically DaySmart, we're pulling in all the invoice codes, service codes, diagnostic codes directly from the practice management system. And then based on kind of what happens within the appointment, we can select certain triggers. So that integration into the practice management system, specifically like DaySmart, is really crucial for us to be able to automate the software. And one really cool aspect of it as well is we are primarily doing this through text. We can send this through email as well as a secondary option. But if there is any text responses, we do auto forward that response directly to your two-way texting number. If you're using that within DaySmart, we'll auto forward that directly to your current two-way texting phone number. So we don't think of VetTalk as displacing kind of your current two-way texting platform. And we really built this to fit very nicely within your guys' workflow. So you really don't have to change much when implementing VetTalk. We truly wanted to build something that is fully automated and something that you don't have to manage or change. So, and we're excited about kind of pulling that feature through and gotten great feedback on that as well. So I'll pause there to see if there's any other questions. Debbie, maybe it's helpful. There was a couple in the when people were signing up asking about kind of workflow and how to best incorporate your staff and kind of training your staff up efficiently.
Mhm.
It'd be maybe helpful if you give just some thoughts on that as well. It'd be great.
Oh, yeah. Are now you're talking about specifically with VetTalk or with some of the other tools?
Just kind of either with VetTalk or with kind of some of the other technologies, or really anything that you kind of help to drive either training up the staff and really working with, especially as you talked about the CSRs and trying to get them to a point of providing the care the way that they should. I think that'd be really helpful for our viewers.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things we do need to remember is that the entire staff needs to be on board with this, because if somebody doesn't understand it, or they're being the kind of the fly in the ointment, it makes it much more difficult to implement anything. And, just a simple workflow change, like saying to the client on a discharge, okay, here's your take-home instructions. Here's what we want you to do. Say this aftercare spay. And we're going to automatically send you a video that explains this in detail when you get home. So the client is anticipating that, but the workflow change is remembering to say, we're going to send you a video. Look for this thing, because we all get so much spam. And I don't know about you guys, but I am incredibly suspicious of things that come over that I'm not prepared to get. And I sometimes just won't even open it because I think, it looks a little shady. So we've got to prep the client to know that this is a legitimate link coming over and that it's okay to open it up. The other part of it is thinking about retraining your doctors to speak out loud when they're doing their examinations in the exam room, so that the scribe can do its thing. And that is another challenging workflow. But, the good thing about most of these scribing tools is they are listening to conversation also. So as the doctor is talking to the client and they're asking for symptoms, it's picking those symptoms up. The technician's the same thing. When they're taking history, it's picking up the history that the client is giving and the questions that they're asking. And in some of them, they're putting them actually in SOAP form, so which is really great. And then the doctor is, just has to get used to talking about what they're seeing on the exam so that the findings can go in there. And if they do miss something, there's always the review, and you're going to go back and you're going to make sure that it's spelled everything correctly, that it said it the way you wanted to say it. So it's just so much faster to edit something than to type it in from scratch. But that's a major workflow change, is talking about the exam out loud. And I really feel like when we talk about the benefit of it, that clients understand what they're paying for, honestly, more than they did before. And this is something I've been teaching a really long time, is for doctors to articulate their exams in the rooms, even if we weren't scribing it, because again, it's the client needs to know what you're doing, and it's done so quickly that they don't know. And it doesn't seem like that comprehensive exam is even performed, but they see it on their bill. So we need to be talking to people a little bit more about the work that we're doing if we want them to value the work that we're doing. So those are two particular tools that I think would be workflows. The other one is thinking about using artificial intelligence to read x-rays and getting used to a workflow that sends that out and gets AI to read it, and then the specialist to review it back in 45 minutes or less, rather than, oh, this is going to take me 2 or 3 days to get it out to the specialist, get it read and get it back. So I feel like those are different workflows that we need to think about too. But again, the front desk can also promote that. They can say, we send all our x-rays out to a specialist and artificial intelligence to read so that they're read accurately. And, we have a second opinion on those. And that's a way that you can promote the value to the client of the cost of the x-ray that you're doing, is that you're having other eyes look at it, not just you. There's so much opportunity here to use all these tools to make our workflows better, to give us more time to actually have those conversations with clients. And that's what our clients want from us. Truthfully, they want us to talk to them. They want us to teach them how to be good pet owners and care providers for their pet. There was a survey done, and they asked, who do you feel like is the primary care provider for your pet, or the most important care provider for your pet? And the pet owner said, me. They didn't, and the veterinarian said, well, me, so that there's a disconnect between who is there to help guide the medicine or guide the health of the pet. And many times pet owners don't see their veterinarian except in times of duress. Instead, we need to be the coach and coaching people how to take care of their pet well. And all these tools that we have are enabling us to do that better with a limited amount of staff, because we are seeing, challenging staffing happens too. So if you can leverage the staff you have, then use technology and let those staff members do the things that only a human can do.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot, Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that about wraps us up for today. I did want to mention that we are doing a 30-day free trial of VetTalk if you do use the code Debbie30. So if you use that code within the next 7 days, you guys will be able to utilize and access VetTalk for a free 30-day trial. So feel free to check out our website at vettalksoftware.com. And if you have anything else, any questions, you can also reach out to me directly. So thank you so much, Debbie, for the time. I want to also thank DaySmart, one of our other sponsors, for this webinar. And this was a super educational call about education. So we really appreciate you, Debbie.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Thanks for hosting it, and thanks for having me. Thanks for everybody for attending. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining.